Allison, and this is Mr. Kitty. He's a 5-year-old neutered domestic short hair who belongs to my friend and who I've been training for the past 5 weeks. He's a bit antsy. He's not ready for this to be in front of the camera. So we'll go over how I condition the clicker. So by definition, to condition the clicker, you take a neutral stimulus like the clicker and you pair it with a primary reinforcer until the neutral stimulus takes on the reinforcing properties of the primary. The type of learning used is operant conditioning, and to condition the clicker, I would click the clicker and then give Mr. Kitty a treat right afterwards repeatedly until the clicker had new meaning. For instance, just like that. The second thing that we've learned is to target. By definition, to target is to teach an animal to touch a target or an object with some part of his body. To teach Mr. to target, I used a paintbrush. I would hold the brush close to his face, and right when he's about to touch it with his nose, I would say target, and once he touched it with his nose, I would click, then treat, and I did this repeatedly. We're going to demonstrate that now. Mr. Target. Good boy. Another thing that we worked on in these past couple weeks is capturing. Capturing is a basic method of training where you wait for the animal to spontaneously do the behavior you desire and immediately click and treat. You can then add a cue to this to be done whenever you ask. I chose to capture high five with Mr. Kitty. To do this, I put a treat in between my fingers to spark his interest, and then I would wait for him to touch his paw really close to my hand, and just as he's about to touch it, I would say high five, and then I would click and treat after he's touched my hand. High five. Good boy. That's a good one. Okay. Husbandry behaviors. These are behaviors that an animal wouldn't normally do, but as a pet owner, we find them useful and help us in caring for our pets. So going into the carrier willingly helps make vet visits less stressful for Mr. Kitty. I taught him by putting treats inside the carrier, and just as he's about to go into the carrier, I would say in, and then I would click and then treat when he's done it. Mr. Kitty, in. Good job. Desensitization and classic counter conditioning. It's a mouthful. Desensitizing, by definition, is the process of increasing an animal's tolerance to a particular stimulus by gradually increasing the presence of that stimulus. And classical counter conditioning is when you pair one stimulus that evokes one response with another that evokes one opposite response, so that the first stimulus comes to evoke the second response. This has to be done gradually. I use desensitizing and classical counter conditioning to teach Mr. Kitty to tolerate a towel restraint. To do this, I would place a towel next to Mr. Kitty and reward him every time he showed interest in it. And then I would do the restraint and I would click and treat after we were done if he stayed calm the whole time. So I'm going to demonstrate the yin towel restraint using the desensitizing and CCC techniques. We're going to demonstrate the scarf wrap, or the towel wrap. So I'm going to grab a hold of this side. We're going to make sure it's over his feet and under his chin. I'm going to wrap it around under the front of his neck. Then we're going to switch hands. I'm going to tuck this over here. Then I'm going to grab this side, make sure it's over his feet and around his neck. The towel's a little bit big, but this is how you do the towel wrap. So the two behaviors I chose to teach Mr. Kitty, the first one is left and right paw. Mr. must give me and place the specific paw that I asked for into my hand. I taught this by holding out my right hand in front of his left paw, and I asked for left paw. And when he put his paw in my hand, I clicked and then treated, and I did the same for the other paw. Mister. Right paw. Right paw. Mister, left paw. Left paw. The last trick I taught Mr. Kitty is come. Mr. Kitty lives in a house full of animals, and his owner wants to do a head count often to make sure everyone is home. To teach Mr. Kitty to come was very simple. He is so food motivated that when he hears the sounds of his treats being shaken, he will come running. So I decided to use this to my advantage. So I would shake the treats and say come, and when Mr. came, he would get a click and then a treat. And this was repeated until he came repeatedly without fail. So we're going to demonstrate that. Mr. Come. Come.